Hey everybody, it's Aaron with Robert. Get your geek on here, and we are talking our review of the Black Widow movie, which has taken 10,000 years to come out, but it's here.
It's finally here. We've been waiting for a MCU Marvel movie for, it feels like forever. I mean, the last one we had was 2 years ago. It was Spider-Man Far From Home, which came out in July of 2019. So it has been 2 years, which is the longest wait we've had in the MCU since the gap between The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2. Which was back from 2008 to 2010. So yeah, we did get some TV shows in the meantime, but there's nothing like a Marvel movie in the theater.
Exactly.
And not to touch on a sore subject, but I got to see it in a theater. My buddy Aaron here had a ticket, had an empty seat next to me, had an empty seat next to me that did not get filled. And I know you're upset by that. But you did see it. Did you end up going to the theater or?
No, I just watch it at home. Probably gonna try to go tonight though to see it in the theater just to get the theater experience again. Because I did see Boss Baby 2 in theater with my kiddo. Side note. So I don't know. There's also, oh my gosh, when we went for that, it was too packed. So I'm kind of like, do I want to go see it in the theater?
Yeah, we went Thursday night, preview night, and it was full. I mean, the seat next to me that had your name on it was one of the very few empty seats in the theater.
You're welcome.
So
I'm glad I could help with that.
It was very full and a little bit, it was a little bit weird. I'm not gonna lie, but it was also really great to be back in a crowded theater watching a big movie on the big screen, and kind of enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get into the movie. So Black Widow, directed by Kate Shortland. This is the first MCU movie to be directed solely by a woman. Captain Marvel was directed by a duo that included a woman, but this is the first one that's solo woman effort, starring Scarlett Johansson as our main character, Natasha, aka the Black Widow. We also had Florence Pugh as Yelena, David Harbour as Alexei/Red Guardian. We had Rachel Weisz as Melina, Ray Winstone as Dreykov, O.T. Fagbenley as Mason, who is kind of Black Widow's fixer on the run kind of thing. And one other person that we're going to talk about in spoilers, because I don't want to get to that yet. Okay. But I think let's before we get into full spoilers, let's just talk very briefly about the movie, about the experience. I know you saw it on the small screen. I had a chance to see it on the big screen. So just overall thoughts. What did you think of this movie?
So I'm going to kind of go ugly, bad, then good, I guess. I'm going to go in that order. Yeah. The ugly for me, and it's with every prequel, I'm not just bashing Black Widow. I hate prequels because, again, nothing bad could ever happen to your main character. Right. In an action film, there's supposed to be that suspense, like, oh, are they going to die? Even though in the back of your mind, they're not, because they're the main character. When you take that little sub part of your mind out, it hurts. Like there's a scene where there's an avalanche happening, and it's like, oh, something bad could happen. No, because she's in the next 2 films, so she's okay. So
that's also halfway through the movie. So
yeah, nothing bad can really exactly. And like I said, though, you take away that moment of your mind, though, is gone.
Yeah,
and that bothers me. So that's my ugly part.
Yeah, and I will just to comment on that and say that as well. Like I agree. Like there's the personal stakes for this movie. Like I didn't feel there was a lot of danger for our particular characters,
right?
At any point, but certainly they tried to make the stakes of what they were trying to accomplish have a ripple effect. But I will say that it suffered from the fact that I think we have gotten something like Falcon and Winter Soldier that came out. And they weren't like there was no fallout from the events of this movie that they were discussing, and not necessarily that they would have been, but it was kind of like, if this goes the wrong way, I feel like it would have come up either in Infinity War, Endgame, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and those types of things. So they tried to build in those stakes, but I agree, because we already know some of the things that come after this. It does tend to take away from feeling of like, are they gonna succeed? Are they is there gonna be fallout from this that we don't see?
Exactly.
So I agree with you.
And that's what I said. That's my ugly. My bad, Taskmaster. As much as I love that villain in the comics, that was probably the worst part for me.
Yeah.
How they portrayed the character and everything.
Yeah, and we will talk about that in spoilers. That's a huge spoiler one. So
that's my bad
I definitely will wait on that.
But the good part, the action was really good. I was pleasantly surprised. I honestly was. And I think Scarlett Johansson knocked it out of the park for her action scenes and just a lot of the scenes she's in, the humor. It is very smart ass, which is what she is. She's a smart ass. And I love that we kept that going. And I love the action. I love the comedy in this with Red Guardian as well. And I liked the little throw, what would they call him? The Crimson Dynamo. She mentions at one point.
Oh, yeah. When she makes fun of him, calling him the Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah, a little throw.
Guardian.
And I'm like,
Red Guardian.
It's a Red Guardian. I fight Captain America in the 90s when he was still frozen in ice.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that in a minute. But I'll go your format as well, and say, good, bad, and ugly, that kind of thing. So yeah, from the reverse. So the ugly for me is the Taskmaster thing. I know it was in your bad, it's in my ugly. We will talk about it in spoilers.
Yeah,
I did not like the way they gave us that character. And kind of where that character might be going next. I really didn't like that.
Okay.
So that's my ugly. My bad was that I did not feel like the emotional weight of this story. I didn't really feel like they really tried to show you that this was a family, and you see that in the opening when we do have kind of a flashback to Natasha's childhood, and they're kind of a Russian sleeper cell family, right? That's and so you've got the two parents and the two kids, and none of them are actually related to one another, and they're a family in America, basically as Russian sleeper agents. And that's a formative time for certainly the kids, right?
Right.
They're young enough that they kind of view this as their family. And so they try to get back to that throughout the rest of the movie. They really try and sell you on the relationships that they built during that time and that they're connected. But it falls flat for me. Again, it suffers from the fact that we've never gotten mention of any of these characters before from Black Widow. And I don't know that we would have, but, clearly this is a part of her life that she's put away.
Right.
And it's not until it directly confronts her that now she's going to, have that conversation. But it did feel like, she really fell into these relationships a little bit quicker than maybe I would have, than I would have liked. Like it didn't like they gave lip service to conflict, but it doesn't seem like there really is a lot of conflict for them to overcome within their family unit. And so it just the heart of that family being like the theme didn't really hit for me.
Okay.
But then my good. You took it. It's the action, but I'm gonna change, and I'm just gonna say it's Florence Pugh as Yelena, the sister.
Gosh, she's amazing.
She was awesome. Like her action was great. Her humor was great. I really loved her delivery of the different things. Like the scene in the airplane with Red Guardian where he makes a very misogynistic comment and she just like totally undercuts it completely with humor. Like I loved that moment. Her thing with the vest and like all of that humor was really working for me.
I love the posing thing. That was my favorite joke.
The joke that she's making about Black Widow doing all these superhero poses and stuff. Like, again, I really enjoyed her, and I really enjoyed her humor. So yeah, I thought she was the standout of this movie. Every time she was on screen, I really enjoyed her. And as much as I talked about that, the theme of the family didn't work for me, she was bringing it. Every time she was talking about how it was real to her, or what she was experiencing and why this mattered to her, I did buy that. I was on board with her character. So yeah, I'm excited for her and excited for what we're going to see next from that character. 100%.
Same. She stole it, I think. And like you said, any scene she was in, even when Scarlett was there, she sold that family, that I love you, I care for you, even though you're not my sister, I still loved you. And like she says, it was real to me, and she sold that. And like you said, the only time we get any mention of Alexei later is in Endgame, from the Red Skull, essentially.
Well, I don't think he even uses. Alexei. No, because that's not her real dad. She's daughter of Ivan.
Oh, that's right, daughter of Ivan. That's right.
And so we don't, spoiler alert, we don't find out who Ivan is in this movie.
Yeah.
The only thing we do get is we get a little bit of again, without any details, we find out a little bit about her mom. But again, we don't really know anything about that, and I don't think they're going to revisit that. I think we're kind of done with it. But before we get into spoilers, let's just give our our thoughts on the quality of the movie, where we were at for this. So for me, I think this is a good movie. It's a good Marvel movie. It's it's got really good action. It's got good humor. It's got those things. But ultimately, I think, as you said, it suffers from a little bit of lack of stakes, as well as, for me, the emotional heart of it didn't hit as strongly as some Marvel movies do. And so I put this kind of on par with something like the first Thor, or for me, the Doctor Strange. Like, I think this is kind of in that range where I would say it's about, maybe a 7 out of 10. I would put it at maybe a little bit higher, maybe like a 7.2, something in there. So it's a good movie. I enjoyed my time. It was good action. If you're looking for a return to the MCU action movie, this one definitely hits, and you'll enjoy it. It's got the humor and all those things.
Yeah.
I just think, for me, it didn't hit all the buttons that I wanted to see. Right. And it's hard when you're telling a story that's kind of in between other things that we've already seen to make it have that weight. And I thought they tried, and they did a decent job, but not a great job. What about you?
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we talked about in our Marvel reviews, if Captain Marvel would have come out at a different time, that movie probably would have been better than when we got it. And I think Black Widow is suffering from that same part. If it would have come out right before Infinity War, maybe it would have done better, or maybe if it was somewhere in between all of it. But then again, you would need the payout later, like who is Ivan, or even bring out some random guy showing up to Natasha's grave at the end of this scene or something, something that would have connected the Ivan comment. Because I forgot, you're right, it's Ivan, not Alexei. And it's like, I think it just suffers from that. I think it is a very good action flick, up there with, like, to me, one of the better action films was Captain America: Civil War. And this is up there. It's not as good, or maybe it's almost as up to par to it. But to me, that's one of the better action ones.
Yeah, it's certainly not as epic in scale.
No, not in scale. No. Right. But just the action. Like, I mean, just fight scenes. Yeah. They had the avalanche, awesome, which was a good scene, I thought. Seeing Alexei's humor and like all the humor from all the characters in it. I think I kind of agree with you. It's going to be like a 7 out of 10, maybe a little bit above or maybe a little bit below, but not by much. Not enough to make me say it's going to go a whole number difference. But like you said, 7.1. Maybe one day it's going to be 7.1. Maybe one day it'll be a 6.9. Like, you know what? But the action and the humor from Yelena's character, from the action from everybody, from Red Guardian to Natasha to even Natasha's mom in this one, I think it was all pretty solid.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Now we're going to get into the spoilers.
So I can talk about the pigs.
So again, spoiler.
Pigs. The pigs.
The first thing we have to talk about is Taskmaster. We have to talk about Taskmaster. So this is a callback to the first Avengers movie, right? When Black Widow is talking to Loki while he's in his cell and talking about the red in her ledger, the first thing he brings up is Dreykov's daughter. So we get Dreykov. We get Dreykov in this movie. That is Ray Winstone as the villain. He kind of runs the Red Room of Black Widows. And we've seen the evolution of that program to where they're now under like mind control, like chemically induced mind control.
Right.
And instead of just like training, which is what our Black Widow had. Now all these widows, are truly actually being controlled by this chemical, in their brain. And there's an antidote, and that's how Yelena, she ends up getting freed by the antidote. And then the rest of the movie is them trying to take down the Red Room and free the rest of the widows, right?
Exactly.
And so we get
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am mad we didn't get more of Natasha's backstory with that Red Room, we only get those flashbacks, and not even, you know what? I think we've got flashbacks in the trailers of like
we got more in Age of Ultron than we got in this movie.
Exactly, and that bothers me. Yeah. So just comment on the sides of that.
Yeah.
Continue, though.
So anyway, so as we go on throughout the movie, we keep hearing about, you know, how she thought she had already taken down the Red Room. She thought that Black Widows no longer existed. She'd already killed Dreykov. That was part of her in, you know, coming to S.H.I.E.L.D., was that they needed to see that she truly was, you know, had turned. And so part of her mission to do that was to take down Dreykov, but he was so slippery. The only way to get to him was basically to track his daughter. And then once they saw her make contact with him, that was we're going to take him out, civilian casualties be damned. So, you know, Dreykov's daughter is going to be collateral damage in taking down Dreykov. So they blow up the building where the two of them are.
Yep.
Except apparently Dreykov wasn't there, because he doesn't have any injuries or whatsoever.
Yeah, that bothered me.
Dreykov's daughter is permanently scarred by this, and then she gets controlled and turned into the villain Taskmaster through like a chip in her brain. It's like, it's weird the way that they do it, and the way that it gives her abilities, and then she's also mind controlled. And this is another thing. I mean, I know that Marvel does this, that Marvel Studios does this. They play around with, you know, like backstories and different things and characters. I mean, we look at what they did in Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin twist that a lot of people really didn't like. This one is not as egregious as that. But they really undercut someone that I think really could be a fantastic villain. By giving this backstory to that character. And by the end, when she's freed from mind control, it's like, okay, so is she just not going to be a villain anymore? Like, is Taskmaster one and done?
And that's what bothered me, like, kind of go in reverse. She gets freed from the mind control. Black Widow still blew half your face off. Right. And you just be like, oh, you're forgiven. My dad was a jerk, which, yes, your dad was a jerk. I 100% agree. But she still blew half your face off.
Yeah, and I think in that moment, it's more of just like that she's free. So she's happy that she's free, right? And so she's not gonna attack Natasha. And maybe if Natasha survived, you know, like the events of Endgame, eventually that would lead into, you know, like, hey, I'm still mad at you, and now we're gonna have our face off later.
Exactly.
But Natasha's not around, so now it's like, okay, what is the motivation for this character to be evil if they're going to have Taskmaster return as a villain? And if they don't, man, what a waste.
Exactly. And then the other thing, to that same side note, it's a chip in the back of her spine that's controlling her. Is that the same chemicals that are in these other things? Like, they don't explain that.
So I think they don't explain it, because the chip to me was more like the thing that saved her life and allowed her this ability to mimic, but then the chemical came later that actually controlled her.
It's just a chip, so that bothers me. And then, of course, the other thing, like you said, in the comic books, Tony Masters, or Anthony Masters, who is Taskmaster, has the ability of photographic muscle memorization. He sees something done, his muscles know it instantly, and he can mimic it. Like you said, this one, it might be that chip, like everything's downloaded into it maybe, or something, which was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, we see at one point Taskmaster like watching security footage. It looks like from, I think, Civil War, when they're fighting at the airport. So he's watching like the Avengers fight. And so clearly, you know, this Taskmaster is studying and to be able to mimic. But that's another thing that I will say. So on top of the reveal that I didn't like, even though I could see it coming a mile away, I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be that. Same. But it was. They set it up, and it was like, okay, that's what it was. I did not think as much as we praise like the action choreography and the weight of the action and like all the fight scenes, I really felt let down by Taskmaster's fighting style. I didn't get outside of just a couple moments, I didn't go like, oh man, that was a cool Avengers move. Like most of the time it was like, yeah, I like, he kicked the shield, or she kicked the shield up like Captain America does. Well, we've seen other characters do that too. That's not like a mimicry moment. Yeah, she shoots an arrow like Hawkeye. A lot of people shoot arrows. Like exactly. It just like, there weren't any like cool, like, oh my gosh, that's the only character. And the one that I think they really could have done is that like scissor thing around the neck that Black Widow does. Like they could have done that move, and you'd been like, that's a signature Black Widow move. And especially if we had seen Taskmaster do that like right after Natasha did it or something like that, where it'd be like, oh, okay, that's because I know who Taskmaster is and I know what his abilities are. But if I was coming into this as, you know, not with all that background, I don't know that this movie would have shown you. They tell you, but I don't know that it would have shown you that this character can do that.
The closest they came, and I wish they would have kept going with the fight, was when we first see Taskmaster fight Black Widow. Yeah. She does the scissor thing, which is her natural thing, and she reverses it and then flips Natasha. So it's like,
but it happened too quick.
Yeah,
like it happened too quick to be able to see what it was. And yeah, we do see a little bit of mimicry in that fight, and that's the best one that we see of mimicry, because later on, like the fight with Red Guardian, we really don't get much in that fight. Like it is very abbreviated.
And for me, honestly, and maybe I don't know about you, when they showed the reveal and we see the face of her, I'm sorry, I was expecting her to flip a coin. I don't know if you get the reference. I was expecting that because I'm like, they literally just made her Two-Face is all they did, because now it's the whole good and evil kind of thing. And, you know, she's going to be a good guy now, more than likely, if they bring her back, because again, she's been released and all that. Yeah, but it's just I was waiting for the coin flip. Let me see if I fight Natasha. Yes, I do. Oh, nope. It flipped. It's tails. I can't fight her, Dad. Like, sorry.
Bye. So, and this is Olga Kurylenko is the actress that plays, you know, grown-up Taskmaster. And we only see her in a few scenes because most of the time we've got the mask on.
Yeah.
But you know, she is recognizable if you've seen Quantum of Solace, the second Daniel Craig James Bond movie. She's the Bond girl in that. So she's been a working actress. She's done a lot of stuff. She's a fairly, you know, not like a star, but she's definitely a well-known actress.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of making Taskmaster, you know, female, especially if you're going to have her be, you know, kind of the henchman in this movie. Like, you know, this is a very strong female presence in this movie and all those things. But yeah,
But they took away Taskmaster's ability, that muscle memorization. And like you said, it would have been, I think you hit it on hit it on the head. If we would have seen her do the scissor thing and it's like, oh, I do it now. Okay, cool. Or like she does some other crazy stunt, like maybe with the little grappling hook from her wrist. Oh, I have those too. And then starts doing the same things, like starts mimicking exactly what she's doing. Like you said, Ilana says earlier, it's like a mirror match. But we never, when she fights Red Guardian, it's not a mirror match. Like that was a perfect way to start mimicking his moves. Right. And we never get that. And again, the same way you can't really sell it, because Red Guardian is like, he's kind of like the Hulk. I'm just going to punch it. Okay, well, anyone can throw a punch. There's real no style to the Red Guardian, not like Steve. Steve has his own style and his own unique way of fighting.
Yeah.
And that would have been an amazing fight. Them two, as you see the fight becoming more and more and more mirrored, okay, that makes sense. But Red Guardian, it's like left hook, right hook, uppercut. And that's pretty much all you're going to do. Okay, well, anyone can throw a left hook, a right hook, and an uppercut.
Yeah, again, you know, it was your bad as my ugly. Everything that had to do with the Taskmaster, both the reveal, the setup, and then the actual execution of the fighting and all that stuff. It just really, and then where did the character go from here? It's just like, it feels like if they turn her into a villain, it's going to feel weird. Like, spoiler alert for Falcon and Winter Soldier, when they made Sharon Carter into villainous. Like it feels weird. It doesn't come naturally. And so now if they try and take this character into a villainous route, it's not going to feel natural to me. But let's get off the Taskmaster thing now.
7 minutes rant of Taskmaster.
Yeah, transition to some more of the fun stuff. So I think, you know, the opening action scene in Ohio in 1995 was awesome. The chase scene where you've got, you know, David Harbour as young Alexei, and he's, you know, like using his super strength. He's, hanging on the edge of the wing. They're chasing. They're doing all this stuff. I thought that was a lot of fun.
That was really fun. I was one of my favorite action ones. I do like when he comes back, he's like, "Where's my suit? I want my suit. I've been doing this for 3 years. I need my suit." And he was just so good about being Red Guardian again. And that I thought was fun. I think my favorite part was literally, it's not even action though, but was the arm wrestling scenes as he's getting a tattoo of himself on his back.
When he's in the prison. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in jail. He's in prison. And he's getting a tattoo of himself on his back. And he's literally just arm wrestling people. And then you get the big, huge, brawly looking guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What year did you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know, 90s, 94. He's like, "He's still a nice." Breaks your wrist. "Don't mess with me. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So obviously, Red Guardian, Alexei, he's telling everybody he fought Captain America, right, back in the 80s or 90s or whatever.
Yeah, he comments like 93, 94.
We know Steve Rogers was in the ice from, 45 to, 2011 or whatever. Roughly, in this timeline. So there's no way he could have fought our timeline's version of Steve Rogers. But I want to ask you, is he lying about fighting Captain America, or did he fight someone who was wearing a Captain America outfit who was a super soldier, whether it was Steve Rogers or someone else from a different timeline? Or, did he fight someone? Did he fight a Captain America, or is he just completely full of it?
So I think he's full of it, and that only because he lives on his stories. That is his thing. He needs to have stories to tell people. And there is a small part of me that wants to believe him a little bit, because later on he asks Natasha, after he hasn't seen her in like decades, "So right, does he talk about me?" And it's like, why? If he's lying, correct, why would he say that?
That was the scene that made me go like, I think he did fight someone wearing a Captain America suit. Exactly. I don't think it was Steve Rogers.
But I think he
fought someone.
But that would bring a tie to Falcon and Winter Soldier. Could it be Eliza? What's his name? The one who didn't want to.
Bradley.
Yeah, the one who didn't want to carry the shield, or the one that Hawkeye and Falcon, or not Hawkeye. Yeah, Falcon. Go see.
I don't think so, because like he was earlier. I think he was like 50s, and also I'm pretty sure he'd be able to tell the difference between a black guy and a white guy.
But he would still be Captain America in the suit. He wouldn't care, the man.
But then why would he ask Natasha about Steve Rogers?
Oh, that's true. He wouldn't. Yeah, that's true. He wouldn't know. He would. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, maybe it is a time variant. Maybe
I don't know. I don't know.
That was the only
or
line.
He's just so deep in his lie that he believes it happened, and so it's just it's very possible that he's bought into his own lie. He's been telling it for so long that he thinks it actually happened.
And I believe that too. I feel like he's one of those guys that would just tell the lie so much that it must be true because I've just told it like a billion times already.
Yeah.
But I love that scene.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think that it was cool the way they brought back some technology from Winter Soldier with the face mask thing.
Yes, I love that thing.
I did. I was like, I didn't see it coming until just before it happened, because I was, I was like, wait a second. Like they kind of set up that, like Melina, who's Rachel Weisz's character, and Natasha had this conversation before, they came, and I was like, I feel like she was on their side, and so she's setting something up. It was like, what is this? And then it's like, oh, you realize, oh, actually they switch places.
Right.
And they
Poor
did
Red Guardian through that whole spot.
That was great. He's like, I love like, first he bears his soul to who he thinks is Natasha, and then it's not. And then they get out and he's like trying to talk on an earpiece, and she's like, you don't have an earpiece. He's like, why not? Where's my earpiece?
The poor guy, they just like crapped on him the whole time after that.
Yeah, that was fun.
But it's because they all know he's the bumbling idiot, and they all know it.
Well, he's not an idiot. He's a hammer, right?
Yeah.
It's not that he's an idiot, but he's not super intelligent. He's regular intelligent.
You go hit that thing. That's your job.
he's the hammer. That's what he's gonna do. And so yeah, throughout this whole movie, he's just looking for a nail. He's like, who can I hit? Who can I hit? Who can I hit? And he finally gets to fight Taskmaster.
Yeah.
And
and I like that never changes. That's I mean, he's got to be in his 50s. He's like this. This is who he is. Yeah. And then even at the part where he has the one more chance to finally bare his soul, he's like, it's just gonna get ruined. I don't care anymore. Like, he's lost hope in it. Like, he's just done. And I'm like, yeah, because he doesn't care. Beyond the 2 feet in front of him, he doesn't care. And it's like, okay, there's nothing left to hit now. The whole carrier's been blown up. Like, well, the moment's gone. Like, oh well.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything else that you really wanted to talk about with this movie? I mean, we didn't really touch much on the plot. Again, I kind of mentioned it. So by the end, they free all the other widows from their mind control. They bring down the Red Room, which was, like in the sky, which was kind of weird.
It's in the sky, but it looked like it was being also held up by like pillars, because like these pillars start bending and twisting. I'm like, but there's an engine, obviously. I see the engine that blew up. Right. I'm so confused.
Yeah, it was weird. I thought it was interesting the way that, the villain, Dreykov, had his defense set up with like, not just the mind control aspect, but then the aspect of like having a chemical on him that prevents anyone in close proximity with him from being violent with him. So, I mean, he could still get taken out by a sniper.
Right. But sit back and slap your head off.
If somebody's close to them, this pheromone that he's, exhibiting would prevent any violence against him. And so we see Black Widow has to like break her own nose so that she can, which was an interesting way to get around that. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'll give it that. I mean, I don't know enough on the human anatomy, because that's what they said. They had to sever the nerve right there. And I'm like, I don't know enough on it, but cool. Especially the fact that you busted your own head open essentially to do that. So, I mean, again, though, for me, the plot though of all of this is not very strong. For the whole, with the Red Room, I have read in my ledger that we've been led up to for years about this Red in her ledger, the Red Room, this ballerina scene we get a couple of times in Age of Ultron, and even in the trailers for this, we see a couple of scenes that never made it to the film. What happened? What made you want to go do this? And then we get very small trace amounts of what happened in Budapest with her and Hawkeye. And for me, that would have been a better movie. That would have been a better movie to tell, because then you get the grief from her of like, okay, do I detonate a bomb where a little girl is? I think that would have sold for me just a little bit better than what we got here about taking the Red Room down. Because Natasha did feel bad for what happened to the little girl, but she kept telling herself, casualty of war, like stuff happens. And that's very unfortunate, because it does happen in real life. We do have casualties in war when we launch missile strikes, when, soldiers go in these rooms. Sometimes they don't know what they're shooting at until the dust settles. And it's like, oh my gosh, I shot a kid. Or sometimes you have to shoot the kid because they pick up a weapon. And I'm just, that political side kicks in. And it sucks, but it's like, I don't know. I really wish I would have gotten more of the Budapest, maybe even, because they comment. I couldn't tell. Was that Clint's voice that said, "Is it? Are we good to blow it up?" I couldn't tell if that was Jeremy Renner.
I think it was supposed to be, but it was hard to tell. I don't know. And I agree with you. Like, I wanted more about Budapest, because we see the actual like moment where she calls in the explosion, and we see the explosion and stuff. But then the whole thing about, she mentions it, that they were like holed up in this one place for 2 days, that they were hiding out in Budapest and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, but why? I don't understand. What happened was that before the explosion? Was that after the explosion? Like, it didn't really give us a lot, and it doesn't fully explain the comments that we've gotten from Budapest, because we got that in the first Avengers movie where it's like, oh, this is just like Budapest all over again. And Hawkeye being like, you and I remember that very differently. And nothing in this movie made me think that, Natasha was like telling something like, I'm with Hawkeye. I'm like, we remember that very differently. And then, and then we get the final callback to it in Endgame when they're on their way to Vormir, and it's like, we're a long way from Budapest. And, it's like, clearly that was a formative time in their relationship. That's when they first ended up spending a lot of time together. and becoming as close as they were, and all those things.
My Budapest. That's what I want.
Yeah, we didn't get that, and so it was. I'm with you. Like that was a weird. It was a weird way to handle that.
It's like they were trying to tie it in, but they couldn't do it right.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more of that in the Hawkeye series, which this movie sets up.
You want to go straight to that part now?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want to talk about with the movie proper?
No, I love Yelena. She was amazing. That's it.
Yeah, she was great. and in our post-credit scene, we get her at this is now we cut to post Endgame where Natasha has died and she's got a she's basically Yelena's at the grave site for Natasha, and we see her tombstone. She's got this really sweet like whistle thing that they did. It was like a call and response. And so she kind of does that, just kind of like, hey, I'm here, your sister's here kind of thing.
With her dog. It's such a beautiful dog.
And then
you get a nose bow.
We get our Contessa showing up. So Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Contessa Valentina, whatever her name is, that we also saw in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. She shows up. They have a quick conversation. Clearly, Yelena is working for her. So now she's some part of it. Appears like the American government. Based on a conversation she had with John Walker, as well as now with her, it's like an off books kind of thing. It seems like it's not S.H.I.E.L.D. It's not. I don't know exactly what it is.
But then at the end of it, we get her. Okay, well, this ties into your next target, which is Clint.
And so clearly, this is whether she knows it or not. The world at large does not know the story of what happened on Vormir. They know Natasha's dead. She died in the battle, whatever they're going to say,
because we don't know the only two people, the public.
Right. The only two people that were there were her and Hawkeye. and so and he has, all the Avengers obviously know the story of what actually happened. But either the Contessa is totally lying and just wants Clint crossed off for some other reason, or she doesn't know that Natasha sacrificed herself. And so now we're getting and I've been wondering, how are they going to bring Hawkeye back? Because after the events of Endgame, it's like his family's back. He's not going to want to be doing missions. Like he was already retired, and then twice, like his family got snapped away. It's like, so he's really just like, you could tell he wants to spend every moment with his family. Right. And so what is going to be the thing that brings him back? Well, apparently it's going to be a widow coming after him to kill him.
And I mean, what I'm guessing is it has something to do when he was Ronin and murdering people left and right. That's the only tie-in. Like maybe she was part of some other group and he murdered all of them. And I think that's the tie. Or he murdered somebody she's connected to, like a husband, brother, something. And he murdered him. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think that the Contessa has a personal thing with Hawkeye. She wants him to be taken down, and this is just her excuse to get Yelena on board and say, he's responsible for your sister's death, which, again, we as the audience know is not true. We really like Yelena. We really like Hawkeye, but now we're going to see these characters come in conflict in some way. And we do know that Florence Pugh has been confirmed for the Hawkeye series. So she's going to be in this. We're going to get this conflict. So I'm looking forward to that.
Same. I'm curious how they're going to do it, because I'm wondering, again, we are leading up to a Young Avengers kind of film one day. And Yelena, the actress, is only 25. She's very young.
Yeah, she's young.
And we do get the female Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series. I forgot the actress's name.
Haley Steinfeld. Yeah,
and she's not that old either, I don't think, right? She's
she's in early 20s.
Okay, so I'm wondering, are these going to be the people that at the end of Hawkeye start leading the new Avengers as the older members? Like maybe Peter, if he doesn't get pushed away with Sony, maybe him and them two are going to be kind of like the new Thor, Iron Man, and Cap kind of look. And they're gonna, Spider-Man replacing Iron Man, maybe, and that
is all speculation for a future show. Like We're talking about Black Widow, right?
That's true.
So that scene clearly sets up what's coming next. Hawkeye is coming to Disney Plus. I will say that just like her appearance on Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm not really a big fan of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Contessa and the way, like, like the way she walked in with like a bad humor joke about boots. Yeah. In, these boots are not made for walking or whatever in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, I didn't like that. And the way she enters this scene with like blowing her nose, like it was terrible. This humor is not working for me. And maybe she'll grow on me, but at this point, I'm not a big fan of her character in the way that she's playing her. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a really talented actress. I think this character, what they're doing with this character could be super interesting, setting up kind of like a shadow Avengers team, with, now Yelena as a Black Widow, Captain America being John Walker, US agent, like a kind of like, okay, we're setting up pieces that, maybe Amir, maybe we get Abomination on part of this team and he takes the Hulk role. It's kind of like that, setting up kind of an alternate version of the Avengers. Like, that could be super interesting. I'm just not really liking this character.
It's going to be the Dark Avengers. Let's face it. That's what they're going with. I think that's where they're leading. And again, I agree with you. I don't think she has yet to sell me on her yet. I'm sorry. I spent a good part of 10 years seeing her as Elaine from Seinfeld too. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit hard for me to separate it. And I feel like they're still trying to put that same kind of humor from Seinfeld into this, and it's not fitting. Like you said, the boot's not made for walking, the blowing your nose. That feels like Seinfeld kind of jokes.
I don't know.
And I'm like, I don't know. They're not hitting for me still. They barely hit for me 20 years ago, and now they're hitting even less.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was never a huge fan, but that's where I remember her from. But I agree. Let's see what happens. Hawkeye comes out in 2 months, 3 months, something like that. 4 months. Like that. I don't know.
They haven't announced a specific date for when Hawkeye's coming out. I think we know it's supposed to come out in 2021. So we've got Loki's wrapping up. Then we've got Shang-Chi is coming in September. Spider-Man's coming in December. I think we're gonna get both Miss Marvel and Hawkeye somewhere in between those two movies.
Agreed.
But when they come out, we don't really know. What If's coming out next month in August. I'm super excited for that.
I'm excited.
But Black Widow, overall, I think you already heard us kind of summarize our thoughts. Solid action movie, a lot of fun, had some good humor. Fits within the MCU. I think it's another solid entry into the MCU. But it's not, it didn't blow me away. It didn't have any of like the amazing moments. Like which and maybe this one's not really designed to. It's kind of a spy action movie, right? That's what it's for. I think it does this job well. I enjoyed my time. I'm sure I'll see it again. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it was a good, not great MCU movie, and I wish we had gotten it earlier. I agree with you. I wish this had been post Civil War, when the events of most of this movie take place right pretty much immediately following Civil War.
Right.
I wish we had gotten this movie at that time.
Exactly. And I agree. Again, I suffered the same way Captain Marvel did. I think that's where it lands up. But on that note, guys, let us know down on the comments below what you think of the film, where you rate it, and what you enjoyed the most about it. Like we said, we like the action. Taskmaster, not as much, but in overall the action. Let us know what you like. Did you like how they portrayed Taskmaster? Do you like Yelena? Who's your favorite character? And let us know. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, guys. And remember, stay geeky and get your geek on.
Bye.